Is it possible that tech channels have gotten too big?
You are just jealous.
No, hear me out. I worry that some of these massive tech channels like your Mr. mkbhd have gotten too big for their own good and are stuck in a position that forces them to do some not so great thing. Let me explain. These channels are less channels and more enterprises that have, dozens of people working for them, massive studios, just insane costs of production, which is fine except for the fact that views aren't. Look, we all know that consumer tech, which is what most of the channels are built around, is in decline. Tech is getting boring and is going to stay that way. And therefore, their ability to rely on views and ad revenue to fund their channels is becoming less viable. And therefore, have to focus more on sponsorships and sucking up the corporations. One of the easiest ways to get as much views as possible from boring products is early access. Because that allows you to be like the first to capture all the attention the product is going to get. This privilege, I'm sure comes at a cost because nothing comes free. So I wonder if these YouTubers, consciously or not, feel the need to censor themselves and not be as harsh as they want to be to prevent ups in the companies too much and losing the early access privilege. And by the way, this kind of stuff can happen in very subtle ways, right? People think that in order to be bought out by companies, it has to be like Marquez making out with an iPhone. Sometimes it could be making a feature a bigger deal than it really is, or conveniently ignoring negative things. I'm not saying it's happening, because these guys do criticize Galaxies, iPhones and Pixels and whatnot, but you have to wonder if they ever hold back on going nuclear and being completely raw in their feelings to a product. Like it and subscribe because you love these videos. You could make the argument that since these guys are so influential, that these companies have no choice but to give them the phones, and since phones these days are pretty good, the reviews aren't going to be like super critical. But I'm sure that it's a concern that you keep in the back of their mind, because if they lose this early access and have to get a phone and review them and all of us peasants get it, they could lose tens of millions of views, which is like probably like a month's paycheck for like their staff, to YouTubers who toed the line and got the phones early. The second issue is that since views is not a sustainable source of revenue, a lot of them are pushed into sponsorships, which is not inherently a bad thing, because sponsorships is really the only form of stable revenue a channel can have. And given that you have people who depend on you for their livelihoods, you gotta have some kind of guaranteed money in the bank. It's not being greedy, it's just that all this quality comes at a cost, literally. Well, so I personally don't mind them, but a lot of people do, especially videos made dedicated to sponsors. Good God, man, the comments of that, they're almost unanimously negative. And given that there's been a lot of scandals involving YouTube sponsors like BetterHelp and Honey, many people might stop trusting YouTube sponsorships altogether. I wonder how sustainable it is to have a massive production machine behind a YouTube channel, given that the biggest source of revenue is either unreliable or hated in a genre that people call boring and declining. I do wonder that over time, if we start to see YouTubers begin to cut back in the scale of their operations. I hope that doesn't happen, because these YouTubers absolutely deserve all the famous success that they worked on for decades. But there is such a thing as being too big. God damn it, I can't avoid saying stuff like this, man. And man, that is not a position that I want to be in, right? The level of stress, my head would be scalped bare, okay, of any hair if that happened from all the stress. It just goes to show you have to be careful what you wish for. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and check out how phones ruined forgiveness. It sounds weird, but it's true. Check it out. Enjoy. Bye-bye.